Stop trying to understand every single word that you hear in a conversation. Sounds weird, doesn't it? But what if I tell you that doing so, you actually will get the opposite result? Just imagine, you are speaking English with a colleague of yours, or you're listening to a presentation and the information provided will change your work life, no less. You are talking on the phone, visiting a doctor, talking to a stranger on the street. No matter what you're doing, the worst thing happens. You hear an unknown word. Well, of course, you react in the most logical and rational way. You panic. You are desperately trying to understand what it means. You obsess over this particular word so much that you lose track of the conversation. And in the end of the day, you neither get the meaning of this freaking word, nor you have the slightest idea of what the whole discussion was about. Sounds familiar? It does to me. But there is actually something you can do about it. Let's begin with accepting the fact that it's totally okay not to understand every single word in the speech that you hear. This problem has several reasons, and I believe it is important that we know them, because, to be honest, in some situations it's just not your fault as learners. First of all, people may speak fast. Remember how you speak in your native language. Do you pronounce every single word separately and clearly, like in a textbook or in a dictionary? I don't think so. In natural conversations, words often run together. We might not pronounce every word clearly in our native languages, and so do English speakers. They tend to drop syllables and blend the words together. For instance, in English, the phrase, "Do you want to go?" may often sound like, "Do you want to go?"
Want to go?
Or, "What are you going to do?" will sound like, "What you gonna do?"
What you gonna do, sissy?
You might already know these words, but the fast speech makes them harder to recognize because they don't sound the way you expect them to. Natural speech is not like constructing sentences with isolated words one after another. Instead, it may consist of groups of words, 2, 3, 4, even more, which are linked together smoothly. To understand fast speech, our brains need to recognize these word sets instantly and connect them to their meanings. If you find it difficult to follow fast conversation, this is likely one of the reasons. If you are now thinking, "I knew it, they just speak too fast, there is nothing I can do about it," stop right there. There is actually something you are fully in charge of. Much bigger reason why you don't understand words when they are spoken is that in fact you don't know them yet. The more words you have in your
mind palace
mental dictionary, the easier it is for you to understand what you hear. When you know, say, 8 or 9 words out of 10 in a sentence, chances are you will guess the meaning of the ones you don't know from the context, without even noticing it. However, when you encounter too many unknown words, comprehension becomes difficult. Getting used to the speed of speech happens relatively quickly, but the real challenge is to learn the new words. As I said, there is a bigger problem, the solution of which needs time and effort. I need to be clear. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to improve your listening skills. However, as any skill, it needs practice to be perfected. The more, the better. And here's what you can do. Just dive into it. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that lack of vocabulary may be the reason why you don't understand everything when speaking to other people or watching videos. However, there is no such thing as enough words to start listening. Expanding your vocabulary to be able to comprehend better goes hand in hand with actually practicing your comprehension. Regular listening practice is essential for improving your comprehension skills. Short, consistent sessions are more effective than long, occasional ones, as they help your brain steadily adapt to the sounds and patterns of English. To maximize your progress, expose yourself to a variety of accents, speeds, and contexts. This means listening to podcasts, watching movies, following news broadcasts, and engaging in conversational videos. What exactly should I listen to make the most out of it, you may ask? The answer is simple. Listen to whatever interests you, at least now in the beginning, when you want to make listening your regular habit. It's a well-known fact that we learn faster If we are engaged with the context that interests us, the more engaged you are, the faster you will learn. Not being a native speaker and not living in an English-speaking environment, I myself feel the need to support and reinforce my listening skills. Thank God we have YouTube, right? I watch videos that interest me: fashion, horse riding, minimalism and organization of living space, productivity and even finances. Whatever you watch in your native language, I bet there are plenty of creators that speak on the same topics, but in English. Focus on main idea and use context clues. When having a conversation with a person, try to understand the overall message rather than getting stuck on individual words. This approach helps you grasp the speaker's main points and keeps you engaged. By focusing on the big picture, you will be able to follow the flow of speech more easily, even when encountering unfamiliar words. How exactly can you do it? Use these surrounding words and context to help you deal with the meaning of unknown words. Often, you can understand the new word in this sentence by considering other words, the overall topic being discussed, and even the body language. Facial expressions, gestures, and other visual cues can provide additional information that helps you understand the spoken words. After you've listened to someone, take a minute to summarize what you heard in your own words. This practice reinforces the main idea and makes sure that you understood the key points. It is particularly important in work-related situations, when your correct understanding of the task, message, or idea can have life-changing consequences, isn't it? Don't be shy to use such phrases as, "Am I getting it right?"
Am I getting this right?
"Let me see if I have understood you right."
So let me see if I have this right.
Or, "Am I right to understand?"
Am I right?
To double-check your understanding on the one hand, and make an impression of a good and careful listener on the other hand. Expand your vocabulary. There is a gazillion ways to expand your vocabulary. This way or another, all of them mean to actually learn words. I will not tell you anything new here unless I tell you that listening can be an awesome way to enrich your vocabulary, provided that you are ready to make some efforts. Listening to the content with transcripts is a highly effective way to expand your vocabulary. First, listen to the audio without looking at the transcript to assess how much you understand. Then, read the transcript while listening again. This will help you identify unfamiliar words and phrases. Highlight these words and look up their meanings. Unfortunately, seeing the meaning or translation of a new word alone is not enough to remember it. You need to take notes on new words or expressions that you encounter. And here, the common advice is to write down the words along with their meaning and examples of how they can be used in the context. However, I would add, be picky. You don't actually need every single new word that you come across. What you should do is to choose. Make a decision how important this particular phrase is to you. I will give you my personal example. I was watching the video and came across this new word, cochlea. It is a part of our inner ear, a very important thing, but not so important to me in my daily life. Honestly, I've never had an occasion to use this word, so I did not write it down and I will not continue making efforts to memorize it. Although I'm sure I will not forget it easily right now. On the other hand, I did note down the word sparse, which means rare or poor, particularly about choice, because I know I will use it as a synonym to those words. I feel I've put a lot of pressure on you with this video so far. The thing I'm about to say is just as important as everything I mentioned before. It is okay to not understand something. One of the most challenging aspects of learning a new language is being comfortable with not understanding everything. There is a concept known as tolerance to ambiguity, which is crucial for progress. The more you can accept ambiguity, the less frustrated you will be, allowing yourself to listen more without the urge to turn off the audio when encounter unfamiliar words. A student of mine initially struggled with this. He wanted to understand every word he heard, and when he didn't, he felt frustrated and believed there was no use from this practice. This mindset forced him to avoid listening at all, which significantly decreased his progress. Eventually, we agreed to try and shift this approach. He started listening more even if he didn't understand everything. Over time, it bothered him less and less when he missed some words or phrases. We need to accept that we won't grasp everything immediately. Instead, focus on what you can understand at that moment and let the time do the work for you. Consistent exposure leads to better results than any other method. There is another shift in your mindset that needs to be done: the approach to setting your goals. I spoke more about this in one of my previous videos. I will link it here and in the description box. Instead of fixating on a big goal of understanding everything, set a practical daily listening goal. That's it. Your goal is to listen and to make it your habit. And the last point I want to share with you today is: communication is everyone's responsibility. It is not entirely your job to understand. The speaker also has a duty to ensure that they are being understood. Don't be ashamed to ask your interlocutor to explain something that you don't know. Native speakers, for instance, may not even realize that you do not understand some particular word or phrase. Now, I don't want to offend anyone here. The same happens to me in my native language. But being a teacher and having students from a variety of cultures, backgrounds and languages, I have just improved my ability to read their minds. So communication is a two-way street, and you need to say when you struggle to understand something. I'm pretty sure people will be glad to help you understand their language. That's it for today's video. I hope it was useful and maybe somewhat comforting to know that it's okay not to understand everything. Tell me in the comments if any part of the video made you think of your own behavior when facing unknown words. Are you going to put any recommendation into practice? For being with me this time, and see you very soon.